Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to the fourth panel here at the Future South LA Conference, June the 23rd. We have 7 panelists here, and the topic today is the community and community-based services and city-based services. I just want to say that this conference here complements the work of the South LA Initiative, which is a 5-year strategic plan sponsored by the mayor and the council members Parks, Perry, Hahn, and Wesson. It's a common agenda, and it has over 105 programs and projects that are operating in South LA, and it's really just an effort to focus on the area as a region as opposed to neighborhoods and council districts. Now, this is a project of the South LA Community Advisory Initiative Community Advisory Group, and they put on several projects like an oral history project, a business academy for nonprofits, and also the South LA Consulate project, where we went out took a lot of ambassadors from foreign countries into South LA to interact with the community. Today we're going to hear from city and nonprofit individuals who are working to improve the conditions in South LA. We want to hear any concerns that the audience has. Basically, the overall purpose of this 2-day conference is to bring together the leaders and workers in the community who are really making a difference in improving things. And when you think about the nonprofits, you think about the churches, the schools, they're called mediating structures in a neighborhood. The structures where people come and interact and work in the interest of the area. So today I want to, we have 7 panelists. We want to sort of have time for questions and answers. So I want to really start out with Olivia Mitchell. Olivia Mitchell is the Deputy Chief. Wait a minute, she gave me a different thing here. She is the Director for Research, Legislation, and Evaluation for the Community Development Department. In this capacity, her unit identifies and coordinates and creates policy papers in support of the programs and initiatives of the city and the department. Key issues are employment, poverty, youth development, and the impact of local, state, and national initiatives on poor, low-income, and moderate-income individuals and families. She also supervises a staff, and she's a member of the division within CDU that coordinates the city's annual plans for the use of block grant funds and workforce dollars. Mrs. Mitchell has over 40 years' experience in youth programs and community services. We'd like to introduce, let's give her some warm applause, Olivia Mitchell. You want water?
Thank you. It's always a danger to be the last panel of a whole day in which people are talking about key issues, and the social services issues that we're here to talk about really are the thread that holds it all together. I'm not ever certain that people understand how involved in your lives and the lives of the people that you care about our department, the Community Development Department, the city, the block grant program, which I'm old enough to remember it as the War on Poverty, as well as the workforce development programs are. So I have distributed, and if you don't have one, there's one at the end of your bench, a packet that really talks about all of the kinds of things that we do. And because our name isn't on everything, people miss it. So if you support or oppose the day laborers, you need to know that the city funds day labor programs in which we provide, in most instances, a facility so that they could use the restroom, ESL classes, help to connect them with employers, and etc. And we had a group of people visit from France, and they couldn't understand why the city was funding a program that serviced people who were not legal residents. But it's an issue that impacts low-income communities. We respond to it. We also fund the domestic violence programs. The city funds those programs as well as the county, but we're the people who fund it. Your block grant dollars are there. Of course, on our workforce and investment side, we do the employment programs for adults, for young people, for displaced workers. All of those kinds of services come through us. And there's information about all these programs, so you can read this later, and where to go to find us. Oftentimes people say, we don't know what you do, but we do everything. We have small business assistance in our LABAP program, in which we help people with financing, with business plans, etc. Those are block grant dollars, and those are also WIA dollars that we fund. So it's important for people to understand that we are everywhere. One of the things that Valerie asked me to talk to you about that we do is we provide a service in which the families in our communities can come to what are called our family support services, family source centers, and these are centers around the city, and this one talks about it, and all of their addresses are both in this brochure, and then I had people give me this one, which is folded up inside. I've heard collaboration, coordination in the other workshops. It is a mandate in our program around our block grant program, so that we have, if you look at this document, it says something about a lead agency, so we fund someone, but each of them are required to have 5 partners. I had someone speaking to me about how could I get involved in city government, how can I get city funding, and I told them that this is the way to do it, to join in with some of our major organizations, because they are required to have funded partners. So when we talk about South LA, this is a list of all 21, but you will see the names of agencies that you recognize that you may not have realized are actually funded by the city under the block grant programs. The family source centers are ones in which families who are having a variety of issues can come to one place and be either serviced at that place or nearby, so that those services include almost everything. Drug abuse, legal services around education, landlord-tenant, services for young people, after-school programs to help them raise their academic achievement. We host the VITA program that helps people with their taxes. We have a huge tax season. We help to train the volunteers, and we are very much interested in making certain that our families apply for and receive compensation for the Earned Income Tax Credit program, the Child Tax Service, and that they come and get it for free. Most of them will, despite the fact that they're low income, they seem to be willing to pay people to do their taxes, as opposed to come and let us help them do their taxes. So we have all kinds of services for families under our family source system that are all around. This young lady says I have 5 minutes. Let me see if I missed anything from the book. That's why I bring it in writing. So this is a list of that. This is a list of our work source centers that's in there, and I always do this when I give people packets because they generally won't go through it unless you tell them what's in it. So this is a kind of a comprehensive look of the Community Development Department, and this is how to find all of us, because of course we work for you. Work source centers, people are talking about summer jobs. I know the jobs panel talked about it this morning, but this on the back is a list of all the agencies. It's not like many of us remember it was done. You have to go to one of these people to apply if your young person is looking for a job, and please let them go themselves. We keep giving people's mama, daddy, cousins, grandparents. If they're not willing to go and apply for themselves, we're not willing to hire them. So addresses that you need are here, and I'll be happy to answer questions. I'm full of all kind of trivia information because I've been with the city since '74.
Let's give her a hand. Thank you, Olivia. So this is a city community panel, so we're going to go city, department, and community. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Tim Watkins, who's a legend in his own time. He is the CEO of the Watts Labor Community Action Committee. He'll tell you a bit about that. It's a long, prestigious history. He's currently in his 3rd year as president and CEO, and he's served in that position since 1993, and he's led many of the many positive programs that are happening there. So Tim, let's hear from you.
Thank you very much, Valerie. Just for the record, I'm in my 11th year as president and CEO, and I have to correct the record because it seems like 20 years.
Okay.
It's a hard job. As Olivia mentioned, the South, the Family Source Center and Work Source Centers are hallmark projects of the CDD, and WLCAC is one of its top performing contractors in the region. We're very proud of that. We provide services from, we sometimes say, from cradle to grave, because we start with infants in our Head Start centers, and we go all the way through to the Pioneers of Watts, which is a group of 80 elderly people that meet every month about the true history of Watts. We have a lady in our Pioneers Club that graduated from Jordan High School in 1929. But between that, we have programs for children after school. We have transportation, senior services, including nutrition and social services to get seniors out of the house and into the community where they belong so that they can participate in the mainstream. We have housing, both housing and property management, as well as homeless services and all sorts of services that are meant to try to address the problem of poverty in our community that stems from homelessness, joblessness, illiteracy, high recidivism rates, and poor health. We're involved across the spectrum as we reach our 46th year of being in business, because we understand that what we do and what we've done for 46 years is treat the symptoms of poverty, and that if we're really going to make the difference that the founders of Watts Labor Community Action Committee intended, we're going to have to get to the curing side of that. We're going to have to get to the side that uses enterprise and uses entrepreneurial mentoring and uses incubation or any other means that we can to help people that haven't found their place in the mainstream get there in a self-sufficient, but more importantly in a self-determining way. And we understand that we have to inform our community in order to do that, that people have to be more in tune with and more aware of how policy drives and exacerbates poverty in our community. That when we begin to understand how policy plays a role in the life of poverty, then we'll understand why that war that Olivia referred to when she said the war on poverty, why that war virtually failed. And it's because we didn't involve and we haven't involved the people that are the victims of the problem of poverty enough in the planning of the solutions. And so when I sit across from folks like Arturo Ibarra and we talk about what to do about the problem of predatory lenders and foreclosures and those kinds of things, we have different kinds of ideas about how to solve that problem than the banks would provide to us, and you're going to hear from us about that very soon in the near future. So thank you very much for having me here, and I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you. Let's give him a hand. Now, one of the things that was a statistic that I heard here today that was striking to me is that 20% of the people in South LA don't have cars. And someone mentioned it, whispered to me, perhaps that's because we have a higher rate of elderly in our community. We're pleased to have here today James Don, who's the Assistant General Manager of the Department of Aging. He's been with the department for over 21 years, working with community-based organizations and to provide contract services for seniors. And he's been the Assistant General Manager of Aging since 2005. Welcome, James.
Thank you. Let's see, I think there's no button there.
Yeah, I have a PowerPoint, but I won't bore you. I'll just skip through, get the highlights.
Go through it.
Okay. The city has actually, the figures are on the PowerPoint are from the 2009 census data. Our estimates currently is about 600,000 seniors in the city and about 1.5 million in this LA County area. We have about a third of all the seniors in the state of California in the LA County region. Over half of the senior almost half the senior populations are minority seniors. We anticipate that the 60-plus population will actually grow by 70% within the next 20 years. You've all heard about the baby boomer wave. Basically, last year in January, another person turned 60 every 7 seconds. So we're all getting there. When I started with the department, my hair was black, and the gray is coming through. And actually, I'm quite glad, because now when I speak to seniors, they take me a little bit more seriously, because I'm almost there with them, and my opinion might weigh a little bit more. The Department of Aging is predominantly grant funded, unlike a lot of other city departments. And also, we actually contract out a lot of our services. We recognize that partnering with community-based agencies is the most effective way to implement programs. We rely on their expertise as well as our own in-house planners. We're one of 33 designated area agencies on aging in the state of California under the Older Americans Act, which is our primary source of funding. It's a federal act. We're designated to provide Older American Act services. Our three core functions are advocacy at the state and national levels through our associations, planning for the needs of seniors. Our goal has been to provide services, a continuum of services, so that seniors can remain in their communities, in their own homes, living independently with dignity. Recently, our mission also expanded to assist family caregivers, because oftentimes we would be dealing with the adult children who are trying to seek services for their mom or dad. And the third is providing senior services, not only the services provided under the Older Americans Act, but any other services that our area plan identifies as a need, a gap. We divide our service area, because the city is so large, into 15 service areas. They're similar to the council districts, but not exactly, because every 10 years when they redraw the council districts, we don't redraw our service areas. Seniors don't care exactly what happens with the council districts. They just want to know that the service provider that they have is still the same one that they're familiar with. In each of these areas, we have a focal point. So we usually contract with a main provider, and as a matter of fact, for Central and South Los Angeles aging service areas, WLCAC has been our provider. We're very appreciative of our partnership with Tim and his organization. They're very strong, and we know that we can rely on them, and we value their opinion always when we do our planning. Some of the core services that our contractors provide include transportation, care management, nutrition services such as our dining centers, where our seniors can get a hot meal each weekday. But the real reason is to gather the seniors together so that they can socialize and just be with friends. We don't want them to be isolated. It's a sad statistic that one of the highest rates of suicide is actually with seniors because of depression resulting from onset of isolation or injury. So we also provide home-delivered meals for seniors who are living alone and isolated and can't get to a nutrition center. We also provide information for other services within the county, within the city, housing information. The two largest demands that we always hear about from seniors is housing and transportation. Those are the biggest needs that we usually hear about. And I'm going to skip a couple of slides. We also partner with the county, with our rec and parks, and in the county, parks and recs. We convene knowledge fairs so that we can share best practices as well as grant funding opportunities with senior centers so that they can address the need. And I just want to take this moment to explain the difference between our senior centers and Rec and Park Senior Center, because I always get that question. Rec and Parks has about 28 senior centers throughout the city. They mainly deal with recreational activities for the senior. We fund programs that mainly deal with supportive services for the senior. So as the seniors start aging in place and they start needing additional services, such as maybe in-home services with house cleaning or personal care with dressing and bathing, that's kind of the type of services we provide. We also have been seeking additional grants. We've had pilot grants dealing with economic development, where we screen seniors who are already identified through other programs as being low income to see what other public benefits would help them. We have a job training program, and a lot of seniors come to us and they're seeking work or training to find jobs, but we felt, well, we should explore the reasons why they need that. Maybe there's issues with their mortgage payments or with their prescription medications. The bills are so high that they're seeking employment. So we're trying to take another look at it that way. We are also implementing a new evidence-based model with our providers, where we're trying to implement programs that actually increase the health of the senior, where we can actually measure that to the degree that medical providers would say, well, wait a minute, you know, those services are actually worthwhile. We're willing to fund you for that, and that's our goal. Recently, we received 2 transportation grant awards for $6 million to cover a 3-year period. One is to provide door-through-door assistance to seniors. It's built on top of our current door-to-door, which is different from access. With access, you're left at the curbside. We currently provide transportation to medical appointments and so forth. They go to the door of the frail senior's home, escort them to the vehicle, take them to the doctor, escort them to the doctor's office. Now we have an additional program for those seniors who are very frail, where they could actually go in the home, help them get ready, get them to the doctor's office, actually go into the doctor's office, and at that point hand them over to the nurse or receptionist that's at the doctor's house. That's a very exciting program, and we look forward to implementing it any day now. The other transportation program that we're implementing is actually to assist our jobs training program, where we will take seniors to their job training site, wherever it may be, so that they get the experience they need to find a job on their own. And with that, I'll go ahead and end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we have with us again another stalwart in the community. You know, there's been a lot of talk about South LA, and we also have to recognize that the tremendous demographic changes. When you look at the leaders of the civic infrastructure, the neighborhood councils, the nonprofits, the block clubs, the leaders are sort of primarily African American, but the demographics have changed, and they're becoming more and more leaders coming to the forefront, emerging leaders. And one of the stalwarts that's been working in the community for so many years is Arturo Ybarra, who's the executive director of the Watch Century Latino Association. He's been grappling with the issues of the people who are coming and populating it to the extent of 67% of South LA. And he's been working for over 20 years with a firm commitment to community building, including union tenant rights, organizing, human civil rights, community economic development, political campaigns, school reform, and community violence prevention. He is a remarkable individual who has dedicated his own life in terms of improving other lives. So Ybarra, welcome. Arturo. I'm sorry, Arturo. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for that wonderful.
Push his button. Push it. Mike.
I was saying thank you very much for that beautiful presentation, and thank you for your invitation to this panel. And yes, as a matter of fact, Watch Century Latino Organization has been, for the last 21 years, grappling with all kinds of situations in South Central Los Angeles, and specifically in Watts. And now, with this foreclosure debacle, as Mr. Tim Watkins said, now we're dealing with many angry and frustrated homeowners that are trying to get their loans modified so they can make their monthly mortgage payments. Unfortunately, banks are not responding to these troubled homeowners that wanted to keep their homes. And frankly, stating a healthy critique to our federal government, we don't see either the willingness or the political power, for our government to push a little bit more or press a little bit more to banks and investors, greedy investors, to actually provide more loan modifications. As an example, the Making Home Affordable program from the president, it was supposed to serve somewhat between 6 and 7 million troubled homeowners nationwide, and only about barely 30% of that figure has been served nationally. So, homeowners are extremely angry, and especially in Watts, Compton, Linwood, Inglewood, and other areas, to a point in which, during our orientations for troubled homeowners, many are ready to come before before the banks, actually before the different branches in our community, to start picketing, and exposing the problem they are facing with lenders and banks and mortgage companies. So what Century Latino started in 1991, as I have said, building bridges of communication between Latinos and African Americans. Why? Because that was the only viable way for a Latino organization to survive during those critical times. As you know, Watts and South Central have been a port of entry, a historic port of entry for many new and substantially new immigrants. And frankly, with the economic and social conditions in which most of us inhabitants have been forced to live, the opportunities have been pretty short, per se, and there has been a sense of competition between Latinos and African Americans. So in the 70s and 80s, when the big mass of immigrants, the last big mass of immigrants came to the United States, a good portion of it came in Los Angeles through South Central and Watts and Linwood and other areas. That put a lot of pressure to the current system, to the status quo, because Latinos not speaking the language, not knowing the social conditions, the social dynamics in the community, started to come over, and the conflict came to a point in which, What Century Latino organization was forced to file a class action lawsuit against the Public Housing Authority because of the ethnic conflict within the public or subsidized housing system in Los Angeles. So in 1994, we filed this class action lawsuit, and we certainly looked for the support and partnership of other sister organizations, and those organizations, one of those organizations was the Watts Health Foundation and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and others, and we were successful in a sense that due to this class action lawsuit and the influx of Latinos in South Los Angeles, I would say that within the housing projects or the public housing developments, the ethnic conflict is not existent anymore. We have had other programs like youth leadership development, and we have been pretty much involved since the inception of the organization in school reform. You remember those schools that were failing for our children and youth in South Los Angeles, and specifically in Watts. And, we did the same thing we did with the class action lawsuits. We continue building bridges, we continue informing, educating, and engaging local residents, Latinos and African Americans in English and in Spanish, and get them together, involving churches and community stakeholders to bring that change. And, I have the honor to become part of that partnership with Mr. Tim Watkins and other organizations within the area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arturo. Arturo Ybarra. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Mark Wilson. Mark is Executive Director of the Coalition for Responsible Community Development. He operates mostly, I think, in CD9. He works with residents, businesses, community organizations, and civic leaders to foster a safe and economically vibrant community offering young people opportunities to thrive. We welcome you, Mark.
Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate being here. And in short, CRCD mission is to improve the lives of residents and build neighborhoods responsibly. And in short, our work is done through collaboration. And the three primary areas of work that we provide in that area is workforce development. So CRCD is the lead agency for the South LA Youth Build program. It's a collaboration where CRCD is the lead agency and our partner organization is Los Angeles Trade Tech Community College. We also are the lead agency along with 4 other reputable organizations for the Vernon Central Workforce Development Network. Collectively, we work with about 400 young people a year, providing them with part-time, sometimes full-time employment opportunities, but more so placing young people on a career track towards a career and a vocational skill. We also build permanent supportive housing, primarily for young people that are aging out of the LA County foster care system. This is, as you know, a serious issue for us and that we're grappling with in our area. The fortunate thing is that we are on track to producing units for young people, but the unfortunate thing is that there's not enough units in the pipeline, and we hope to partner and encourage other local developers to consider developing housing for this population. Currently, with the mix of units for emancipated foster youth and our homeless youth, and affordable housing units for families, we have in our pipeline currently almost 200 units, 2 which we're proud of that are historic to the historic area that we serve, which is the historic 28th Street YMCA that is currently under construction. And in December, we're hoping to have under construction the historic Dunbar Hotel. These are in partnership with reputable local community developers and regional developers, and we're proud to bring those resources to our neighborhood. We also, in partnership with the City of Los Angeles, provide significant neighborhood and community beautification services. So we are the graffiti removal contractor in our area, and that program is essentially very vital, not only on a public safety sphere, but also on a workforce development sphere. We remove more than 6 million square feet of graffiti per year, and we provide first-time employment opportunities for young people from that area. Now, just to give you some statistical information of why we're removing so much graffiti is because within our target area, which is about 15.2 square miles, and for those of you that don't know, geographically, our location is east of the 110 freeway, south of Washington Boulevard, and just north of the Watts community. And within that 15.2 square mile, according to the LAPD, there's about 60 different Los Angeles street gangs, small and large. And the fortunate or unfortunate thing is that with the lack thereof resources and the many cuts that many of us are experiencing in our neighborhoods, gangs is an alternative for young people in our community, and graffiti is a way that they express themselves or carve out neighborhoods, and our staff is right in the middle of it. But the great thing is that through the partnership with the city, we're able to combat it and build collaboration with other city agencies and the LAPD to enhance services and keep certain crime elements down. CRCD is built around collaboration. while we may be of the youngest community development corporations in the area or in the industry as it may in South Los Angeles or Los Angeles, I think we're seasoned enough to realize that we can't come into a neighborhood and wave a flag and say we have the answers to everything. There is no silver bullet for the Vernon Central community, but we are smart enough to identify and recognize that there are seasoned organizations in our area that have been in that neighborhood for years, such as All People's Christian Center, Los Angeles Conservation Corps, A Place Called Home, just to name a few. But at times, we're so busy in our work, it's difficult for everyone to get on the same page and communicate and understand what each other are doing. And so CRCD plays a real pertinent role in bringing these reputable organizations together in a collaborative sense. So we've built something. We were tapped by the Local Initiative Support Corporation of Los Angeles to spearhead the Building Sustainable Communities Initiative, which is a national initiative supported by LIST to bring these groups together to put together a 5-year quality of life plan, what actually folds into the Future of South Los Angeles plan. And it's just addressing those very major issues that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis around public safety, workforce development, affordable housing, small business development, and also bringing more green space to our community. And that's pretty much what we do at CRCD. Thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least, we have one of the executives from our department, the best department in the city of Los Angeles, the Department of Public Works. Our Assistant General Manager, Ron Olive, is here. He's with the Bureau of Street Services. He's been with the city for 27 years, and for the past 6 years, he's overseen 900 employees and has an operating budget of $145 million. Ron, welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. And it's my honor to be the last speaker of the last panel of the day. So I'll try to bring it home. Just to, again, give you a quick overview of some of the most important direct core services that we deliver to the neighborhoods citywide and to South Los Angeles. We are responsible for maintaining the largest street network in the United States. We have a network of 6,500 miles of streets. As my director, Nazaro Sacedo, likes to say, that's a 2-lane highway between here and Paris. So to give you an idea of how many streets we have to deal with. Approximately 800 miles in the South Los Angeles area. Our pavement preservation program, as we call it, we're entering the 4th year of a historic period where the mayor and city council have supported a funding level which, for the first time since World War II, has maintained the integrity, the structural integrity of the system for the first time. In fact, it's improved a little bit over the past 3 years, going into the 4th year. We've taken advantage of some American Recovery Reinvestment Act funds, some Proposition 1B funds from the state, and we have a map on the left map over there. We have showing over the past 5 years in the South Los Angeles area that we've either resurfaced or slurry seal, which is a preservation method used for good condition streets, but over 40% of the streets in the South Los Angeles area have been maintained over the past 5 years. So we're doing pretty well there. Our challenge over the next 5 years going into the future really is going to be to supplement those funding sources that are ending next year. Again, mainly the ARA and the Proposition 1B funds. So that's going to be challenging for us in the coming years. And when all else fails, we're also the ones that make the street repairs in between resurfacing and slurry seal. And again, yes, we're the ones that fill potholes. So calling 311 is still the best way to report potholes or street repairs to us. The mayor and city council have provided an extra $1 million this year, so we're going to have enough funding to repair an extra 50,000 potholes, so 300,000 potholes this coming year, so good shape there. Despite all their efforts, the potholes continue. Street cleaning. A third of the city is posted weekly street cleaning routes, and we are maintaining a 95+% efficiency rate on those routes. So despite dwindling resources and challenges with keeping the equipment maintained with our sister department, General Services, we're still doing pretty well there. On the non-posted routes, we are trying to maintain a 4-week cycle, at least on the high debris generating areas. We're trying to keep a once every 8-week frequency citywide, but again, some locations are going to slip beyond 8 weeks, but some are going to concentrate on more. So we think we have a pretty good handle on the needs there, but again, we're welcome to input there. If we're missing some areas, 311, other ways to let us know how we're doing. Talk about our website in a minute. That's another good way to give us some feedback. Our trees. We also have the largest urban forest in the United States, approximately 700,000 street trees. And the other map we have on the right side over there really shows that over the past 5 years, we've really covered with tree trimming the northwest area of South Los Angeles and a small area in the west side. But you can see tree trimming has really been a challenge getting appropriate or sufficient funding levels to take care of tree trimming. The year we're in right now, we actually had no funding. The coming year we will have some funding, but more is going to be needed moving forward. It's getting to the point where we really need to have a focus on additional tree trimming. We've been able to maintain some emergencies, some safety-related crews, so if you have limbs down, low-hanging tree limbs, 311. We'll get there as quickly as possible. We'll clear the street. May not clean it up out of the parkways as quickly as we used to, but at least we'll keep things safe out there. And again, just to reemphasize, we really need to focus on and do what we can to bring attention to the need for additional tree trimming. Lastly, I'd like to talk about, we are the investigation and enforcement arm of the Department of Public Works. Street Services is. We investigate and enforce various city codes, over 100, that deal with public right-of-way violations, such as illegal sign posting, street vending, discharges onto the street, illegal obstructions, et cetera, et cetera. We continue to try to address as many as we can proactively. We encourage, again, 311, again, a common thing in 311 for violations that we need to investigate. A couple things we'd like to talk about on our website, and it can be accessed through the cityofla.org. There's a pull-down menu for the Department of Public Works, or you can go to Street Services Public Works. Coming soon will be some forms, some flyers on there, particularly for the investigation enforcement, something called the Community Leaders Education and Assisting Neighborhoods Program, the CLEAN Team Program. We're looking for folks to help volunteer and work with our investigators to help educate neighborhoods, help bring us to the priority needs related to blight and some, again, safety-related issues in the neighborhoods. And also we're going to be putting out some forms soon where everything we do, from potholes, tree trimming, even interim repairs for sidewalks, we would like to see as many reported to us in groups, if you will. It's very inefficient for us to respond to one request at a time, so we're really looking for, whether it's by address, by blocks, to compile as many requests or as many deficiencies that we can take care of all at once. So look out for those forms. We've developed it specifically for neighborhood councils, but it would apply to any community group, any block clubs, where we can have a point of contact and work with them directly to take care of a lot of problems at once. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron. Okay, we've heard from all of our speakers, and I want to just have a little round table discussion before we have a few questions from the audience. And, you know, the problem today, as we see across the nation, particularly in the city, is a decline in the ability of government to provide services. And it's a permanent decline. It's not going to come back like it was in the 70s and 80s. And I think as you see that, you'll see government begin to reorganize. And it becomes less and less of a tool that the community can use to sort of revitalize and improve. things. So my question particularly to the community-based organizations is, what do you see happening in the next 5 years in South Los Angeles, because we want to talk about the future, and what needs to happen to try to maintain and or increase your services based upon the fact that government resources are going to be in decline, diminishing? Tim.
Well, I had a board meeting last night with WLCAC's Board of Directors, and we discussed the fact that despite that we've got a 46-year history of earning our way into whatever opportunities we provide to the community through contracts and through service. We work for the pennies and the dollars that we earn. We've never done a fundraiser, and so last night's meeting was about starting to figure out how to do fundraising, and let's just say the most well-to-do members of the board were the ones that thought that that was probably the least desirable for us to do in terms of the kind of grassroots organization that we are. Because when they start talking about fundraising, it's not $100 or $1,000, it's hundreds of thousands, it's millions that we need to earn. And so the conversation on a grassroots organization is for the guy that, you know, is earning $10 an hour on our board. It's going to be very difficult for him to go out and raise $40,000. That's what they were saying. That would be a good goal. And so the lawyer on our board and I agreed with him. We think that, you know, we're going to have to become enterprising as an organization. And so what WLCAC has been doing is a whole menu of new initiatives, and we're about to finish our first automobile. We're blowing glass. We're teaching 12-year-olds how to blow glass, and they're blowing some of the most remarkable art that you've seen. We now have thousands. We've got close to 1,000 pieces. We've got hundreds of pieces complete. We have a 2.5-acre urban farm that we've been seeking support for to build a regional food processing center there for safe and healthy food access. And so those are just a few of the things that we're thinking we need to do in order to raise money. We'll do the fundraiser, but the fundraiser isn't going to be reliant so much on the working, and I should say the struggling working members of our staff, as it will be on the alumni, the group that we've hired over the last 46 years, who routinely say, they don't say, my first job was at WLCAC. They say, my first job was at WLCAC. And those are the ones that we know will come back to support us. But I think that even perhaps more importantly is that at a time when we, I think, have close to 10,000 police on our force now, and in a community that's seen more than its share of violent crime, and even a greater effort to reduce that, there's a group called the Watts Gang Task Force. It has been responsible in part for reducing homicides in Watts, and I was told by a police chief recently that it costs $1 million to investigate a single homicide. And so I've been asking privately, elected officials, appointed officials, and maybe now for the first time publicly, I'd say that for communities that have suffered these high crime rates that involve homicides, that have been able to successfully reduce those homicides, that we need to be getting a peace dividend. If it costs $1 million to investigate a homicide, and in Watts we reduced the number by 40 compared to 5 years ago, then it seems to me that even if it were just a few $1 million, what we could do is turn that into more opportunities to hire people, because what we've discovered at WLCAC is some of our most loyal, some of our proudest employees are those that were formerly incarcerated. And so nothing solves poverty like a job. We need more people to be working in a place where they're accepted and embraced and encouraged to participate in the mainstream. And the last thing, because she waved the 2-minute sign, is how much it costs to report back to our funding sources on that penny that we spend to provide the service. It costs way too much. We're getting audited 2, 3, 4 times a year, and it costs the city and it costs us, and I hope my fellow nonprofits will agree, that we spend more money accounting for the service we provide than we actually do delivering it on the street.
Okay, thank you. Arturo, what are the greatest needs of the new Latino residents that are populating South LA?
Well, as we have stated before, Latinos are becoming the majority in not only in the city of Los Angeles, but also in the state, and within the next 100 years, one of every 3 residents in the United States will be from Latin origin. Mm-hmm. And it's not, when we say Latin or Latin origin or Latinos, we're not talking about a homogenic mass of population. Latinos are coming from all ways of life and countries and colors and sizes and, So, but the fact of the matter is that that will be the majority in
Absolutely.
2100, right? So that's a challenge nationally, statewide, and citywide, and certainly in South Los Angeles. Latinos, for example, in Jordan Downs, from being a mostly African American population, now is close to 80%. The enrollment in our local schools have raised to almost 90% in many elementary schools. I think the real challenge is to continue building partnerships with the African American institutions, especially the sister organizations that are, more developed, thanks to a historic leadership development with its roots in the African American churches for the last 200 years. And because, want it or not, we will become one pretty soon, because especially in South Los Angeles and in West, because there are more and more interracial marriages.
Latinos
and African Black Latinos. There you are. So, and believe it or not, my grandfather has his roots in, or was a descendant from African slaves. Although I was born in Mexico, and raised in Juarez, my family has roots in the United States, and in the United States back to almost 200 years in New Mexico, Arizona, and California. So, I remember those days in which there was no border between El Paso and Juarez, and we used to cross with our relatives, the Rio Grande, back and forth from El Paso and Juarez. Now there's a big wall, full of all kind of weapons, killing and terrorizing not only those that are trying to cross the border, but also our communities. Thanks to the ICE, Latinos live in a 24-hour, 360-day state of terror, because nobody knows when the ICE is coming to pick them up. So it's a big challenge. What I would recommend is for those rich and well-developed African American organizations to be sincere, to be cooperative, and to embrace those needs of Latinos, because those are the needs of all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Arturo. And then finally, Mark, you work with a lot of young people. What do the young people need, particularly as we go into the future? What are their basic needs, do you think, now?
At least in our neighborhood, and I'm probably echoing what's true in other neighborhoods, we primarily work with young people 18 to 24. And what we're finding is that, unfortunately, that's that same statistic that is on the arrest list. That's that same age group that is emancipated from foster care and are homeless. And what we're finding is that it's trying to get young people acclimated to things outside of their neighborhoods. What we're trying to get young people is to be more hopeful about the future. Even though they come in and probably into many of your organizations and our offices, I need a job. I want to work. I need a job. I need some money. But it's more so like even though there's, kind of a sliding scale of hope for jobs, we then try to focus on the educational piece and focus more so on putting young people on a track towards a career. We're finding that young people between that age are more adult than we think they are. Many of them are coming to us homeless and with families. Many of us, and with the family part is key too, because a lot of young men that want to be fathers are struggling to become fathers and going through that legal process. So that's an issue. So there's legal, there's education, and there's housing needs, the same similar to what we would consider for families in Los Angeles, are the same needs that young people have. I do think that young people can be inspired, we find, by so little contribution. It's just inspiring them to reach within their inner strengths or inner skill set, and just providing them with a grounding place or a platform so that they can be successful. But as far as needs, we find it no different than an adult person that's 35 to 40-year-old that's coming in our office that have needs of housing, child care, employment, and want to be in a community that feels safe. The young people, surprisingly enough, are experiencing those same issues, and we're trying to address it collaboratively.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to open it up now for anybody from the audience who maybe hasn't spoken the last panels, perhaps. But are there any questions from the audience? But if you spoke in the last panel, Larry Aubrey, you may ask a question.
Hello. You know I'd say something. Thank you, Commissioner Shaw, and thank you, the panel, for being here. My name is Gus Harris, and I'm a community activist. I'm president of Jefferson Park Board of Directors. And as I sit here and listen to you, I think that a lot of people here are busy with acting in their community. Some of them come representing themselves. But a lot of us don't know what it takes or what we need to do to make our community active and try to achieve the goal that we'd like to achieve. And if we had some kind of education, that would help us a great deal. So I'm asking this panel, maybe they can put together some kind of program that would educate the community in what they need to do to bring a community together.
Okay. Who wants to answer that? Who's interested in commenting on that? Okay, let's pose a question. Particularly for the nonprofits, how does anyone know about how to access your services? How do people know how to access your services?
Well, certainly we do pamphlets and flyers, and depending on how well the network service is working, we may have a website. But I think word of mouth is the greatest way that at least WLCAC promotes its services. But we're operating at full capacity. We're serving 4 times as many homeless as we're actually contracted to serve. We exceed all of our numbers in terms of how we serve senior citizens. We're serving as many people as we can in our work source centers. So capacity has been reached, and the only way to begin to exceed that, because it's regulated. This isn't just us doing what we want to do and taking the risk without having to account for it. We have to account to our funding sources, and so if more service is required, then we have to get more resources. But how you bring the community together around, the solution that the gentleman was talking about, is I think that each community has a unique set of challenges, and that until communities come together to set up their own common agenda, not the things that they disagree about or the things that they can't find in common, but the things that they share in common. It doesn't matter whether it's a black or a brown community. Down in Watts, we're starting to see more and more white kids standing on a corner, prostitution, drug addiction, begging, because the problem is growing faster than our ability to respond to it. Poverty isn't getting deeper, it's getting broader. And so when you start seeing these new populations enter the community with the same kinds of problems, it's the community that's going to have to set aside whatever its differences are, find common ground, and figure out how to address the most important issues first.
Anybody else want?
Olivia? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, real quick, I would echo what Tim mentioned and just state that there's not a cookie-cutter approach to how this is done in each community. What happens in Watts is different than what happens in Vernon Central, and Vernon Central is all cut up as well. So it's very, and the way we get the word out is through word of mouth, because most folks are not accessing social networks or internet, surprisingly so in this day. So we have to kind of beat the drum and go door to door and go word of mouth. But it's really about creating something unique that's going to work in our neighborhood, and not look at, we can learn from models from other neighborhoods, but to work with the community to create something unique for that neighborhood and community.
I was going to say community organizing is the way that I operate. Oh, Button, I'm sorry. Thank you. Button. I was going to say that community organizing is the only way that I think. I was raised in the business as a community organizer and a person who understood collaboration. And there are a number of people who are seeking to bring you together that you can simply call. Council offices are always trying to organize people. The Department of Neighborhood Councils was supposed to do that too in terms of bringing people together. Historically, it has been the churches, whether it's how African American churches organize themselves, or how UNO and et cetera organize themselves, principally using the Catholic churches. But you have to decide for yourself that you want to do something, and you have to begin to trust your neighbors, and that's the issue. That you have to go door to door and see what the issues are and bring it together, because it is a power network. When I talk about collaboration, it still astonishes me that we have a jobs program and we have some people that have no relationship with the high schools in their neighborhood, so that they could go there and get all the kids that they need at the high schools. The high schools don't share information about services. The services don't share information about the other service in the community. The churches oftentimes don't share information about what's going on in the neighborhood. If all of us understood that we're one neighborhood, so that the YWCA or the YMCA, whatever is operating, has everything that's happening that the churches are sponsoring, everything that's happening that the schools are sponsoring, you can take over a neighborhood very easily by just having one person, two people who are saying, I'm the town crier. Do you understand, sir, for instance, or anyone else, that every school in your neighborhood has to have a school site council that includes people who live in the neighborhood? When people tell me I can't go to the school, I say that's not true. They have to take you. You can't go wandering the halls, but you can join an organization at the school that develops a relationship. There are after-school programs. You can begin to do it, but you do have to take time. You do have to have people. I was saying to Arturo, I said, Arturo, I haven't seen you in a very long time, but I've watched you for all of these 20 years, and it was just him. He was saying that this is ridiculous. Why are all the resources going to the African American community, and we are here? And for those of us like Aubrey, human relations kind of people, we know that if you have the power, you don't give it up. It has to be snatched from you. And, beat you down and et cetera. To give it up, because I'm in charge, this is my organization, these are the people that I'm serving, I'm not going to serve you people. And despite the fact that we have been you people, we grow to be you people also. So it can be done, but it just takes time, but there are resources. There are elected officials' resources, there are organizations' resources, there are schools that are resources, rec centers, they all have advisory boards. Everybody's supposed to have an advisory board, but if you're like me, when you go, it's the same person. I'm on this advisory board, that advisory board, that advisory board. So I control my community because I'm on all the advisory boards.
All right. Okay, our final question, and then we'll have final comments from
I have a final comment, and it'll be brief, but I stayed because it was labeled community-based organizations, and it is. I mean, at least it is for the most part. But it's funny. All through the discussions and whatnot, and I've been in this town since 1942, and I worked with Tim's father. We were working together and working with people on the panel. Arturo and I worked in Paso. We worked on other things. Olivia and I worked, the good mayor of this town and Mark Ridley Thomas were co-chairs of a committee that I put together in the 80s. It didn't work, incidentally. I'm not saying that for kudos. I'm saying that for just descriptive purposes. What I'm saying is that we're talking still about a society that's essentially racist. We're talking about a society that deals with people in a very inequitable manner, the criminal justice system, etc. And I'm saying these things not to end on a downer. These are challenges that we have to face. We have to describe reality. One of the reasons these things haven't worked in the past is because there's been less than honesty at the table. They're just, you say one thing at the table and you do something else. We are not sufficiently dissatisfied, it seems to me, to behave differently, okay, to change our behavior. We talk about it, you see. So what happens is the problem is that black folks especially, and people of color generally, okay, by not acting differently, perpetuate the very conditions that oppress us. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what I mean about so the community-based thing becomes terribly important. But if it's not a force that counters the status quo, then we're all perpetuants rather than alleviators of the problems. Now, I say this sounds kind of lofty and all that, but this is day to day. I've been onto this quite a while, and I don't have the answers, but I know the difference between crap and ice cream, okay? And I'm telling you that what happens is that most of the bureaucratic situations perpetuate what would exist. Unless there's a pushback, such as from WOCAC, such as other organizations, it's the same. The rhetoric is not going to get it. So I just want to say that the discussion also at some point must include values. Values have been turned upside down. I mean, civility is out of the window. Don't step on somebody's foot out there. When you leave here, you might get killed. And don't have even the wrong colored tie, you might get wasted. What I'm saying is that we're too valuable for that. We're too valuable for that kind of thing. But you asked the question about adults, about how adults, in your response, Mark, about adults. Adults, you said I think there's a real difference. Real difference. The adults of the generation of youth who are coming up, in my opinion, have abdicated their responsibility, frankly. Okay, and so the kids are doing only what they do. I mean, materialism and individualism rule this world. This nation was born on violence, and so all this is an emulation. But we come from a different tradition. Descartes said, what did he say? Descartes said, well, I think, therefore I am. That's a European model. That's fine. But in the meantime, the African traditional model is we're of the community, and that's why we are what we are. So I'm just saying that, listen, all I'm saying is that, and I applaud Valerie, and I applaud the whole gathering. I think it has to go beyond the conference. It has to go beyond Thursday and Friday. It has to go Monday through whatever. All of the days. And I mean, and I'm not saying that you folks aren't doing it. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying, in a sense, preaching to the choir here. But I'm telling you something. This is a perilous time in some ways. This is a very difficult time because of the values thing I mentioned. If a person's life is worth nothing, then what are we talking about? If we don't teach kids to care for each other and really, really care, what are we talking about?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you, I'll say just finally that we need to talk about leadership, moral and ethical leadership. And if that doesn't happen, I don't care how many programs you have, it's going to come out the same way. If you put stuff in that's really funny and whatever, you're going to get it out. And all I'm saying on an upbeat is that we are too valuable for that. Our kids worth much, much more than that, incalculably more than that.
Well,
so I suggest that we keep on doing the kind of things we're doing right now.
Mr. Larry Aubrey, the father of Aaron Kaplan Aaron Aubrey Kaplan. Thank you very much.
All I'm saying is that
I think we hear what
for
you're
things
saying.
to be different, we all have to take some risks. We can't just go home and be comfortable about it. I'm saying we have to challenge things. We have to challenge things, not just for the sake of challenge, but for the sake of our future, our lives, because we're more valuable than that, and our kids are certainly more valuable than that.
Thank you, Larry. Keep hope alive, Larry. Keep hope alive. Okay, I want everybody to have a summary comment. I do want to say this, so that what Olivia alluded to is that something that we want to do with this conference, Larry, is to connect the mediating structures. Because everybody is operating in silo. One of the advantages of the South LA Initiative programs, we brought together the politicians, the departments, and the community to operate in the interest of the region. And so we'd like to also do that in the community by going sort of neighborhood to neighborhood and trying to connect the schools, the civic and professional groups, the nonprofits, and so everybody can just kind of find out what one another are doing and then move forward that way. So we'll hope to do that as a follow-up measure to this conference. But I want my last I'm going to pose this to the nonprofits, but anybody from the city can also comment too. How do you envision South LA in the next 5 years? Describe it, Tim.
At the rate that it's going, I really wouldn't be surprised if one of these incidents where a policeman shoots a boy in the back while he's running away with what he thought was a gun in his hand. One of those incidents is going to happen and all hell's going to break loose. And I believe that we might be witnessing a conflagration unlike any we've seen before, because poverty is so broad now and the suffering is so deep and there is so much punishment for the most trivial of violations that there's just too many people that are frustrated at this point without any solution and willing to commit acts of desperation to try to find a little relief. And so I'm hopeful that it doesn't occur. WLCAC works overtime trying to find solutions to people's poverty. But the poverty is in the poor policy. The poor policies that make life in South LA like living in a pressure cooker. And if the pressure doesn't get relieved, pretty soon, I'm afraid that the top is just going to blow.
Okay. James. Thank you, Mr. White. James, what's happening in terms of seniors in South LA in the next 5 years?
Well, in terms of the growing population of seniors and the limited resources, what I've observed over the last few years in terms of senior programs is that they're moving more towards a preventative model instead of a direct service model. So kind of touching upon what Tim was saying earlier about the fact that you can't keep treating the symptoms, you have to attack the causes. So there are issues about health disparities in poor neighborhoods. So one thing is as we're focusing on trying to bring in best practices to get seniors to live a healthier lifestyle so that they won't need to go to the doctor as often, and when they do, at least the resources are there for them. One of the partnerships that Laura Trejo, my general manager, is working on is a partnership with UCLA and Drew to actually take some of this wonderful research they've been doing and actually put it out into the community. I mean, the government invests all this money on studies, and now they need to actually implement those for the benefits of the community. So that's where I hope we're going.
Okay. And Mark, your thoughts for the future?
I think where we are now is, by the nature of how we operate, is I think that over the next 5 years, because of funding constraints both at in the private sector and in the public sector, is forcing us to work together in different ways than we have before. And I think there's going to be a lot of innovative thoughts and programs that come out of this time that's going to allow us to provide services in a different type of way, because there's a lot of passion amongst organizations and within the city and county family that and because of resource constraints, we're just going to figure out ways to implement those programs. So I think there's opportunities for social investment, and there's great opportunities for economic investment. Because we primarily work with young people, I think what we're turning the corner of is we're trying to let young people know that you're 18 years old. This situation has been around for 60 years. You didn't create this. And we're trying to let adults know, recognize that, and collaborate in different ways with young people, because a young person coming through the foster care system didn't end up there and knock on somebody's door themselves. And so now that they're transitioning, we're hoping that there can be some unique partnerships between nonprofit organizations, the public sector, politicians that says, okay, you know, there's not a lot of resources on the table, but here's this humongous challenge. How can we collectively deal with it? Different than it was before, when resources were rich and people kind of operated in their silos because they had their grants, they had their contracts, and they did their thing. But now it's important for us all to work together. Even if it's for mere survival, it's important that we work together, and I see that over the next 5 years.
Thank you. And Ron, what are your thoughts about the availability of city services in the next 5 years?
I think with all the other bureaus and departments in the city, we've all experienced over the last 3, 4, 5 years great staffing losses, funding losses, and that's not going to get better anytime soon. So we know the needs are getting greater out there with the smaller staffs and the less funding. But really what we need to do, and I touched upon it in my brief comments, was we need to partner with not only. We have a pretty good effort now with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment and the neighborhood councils, but we know we're not reaching everybody. So we need to find community leaders out there to work with us to find the priority areas. We get over 100,000 requests a year, individual requests, and it takes a lot of time chasing those down, trying to take care of one problem at a time, and it really isn't efficient. So we really need to find community leaders, organizations that represent communities, not just a block or a couple of blocks, to work with us, again, work on issues in groups at a time. And I think that's the only way we're going to continue to provide the highest level of services we can, especially in public works, is these economy of scales, if you will, and the highest priority needs first.
Thank you. Our final, you just got one, yeah.
I do believe in the power of one. And one of the reasons that I gave you all this information is that you now have it, and it's your responsibility to share it with people. Did you know about this? Did you know about this? Call these people, set this up, begin to organize. Now, I spent most of my career working with young people, and I don't have the kind of vision that Tim has, and I think that you can come to it. I think that leadership is important. I don't think that we lead our young people enough. They come forward every time. They're renewed, and they renew us that way. But we are not. We as the bigger we, are not spending the time to train them and teach them as we used to. Certainly about civics, about responsibility to community, your role in the government. As a former foster kid and raised, in a low-income family where a single parent who happened to be a father, after he got us out of foster placement, we never felt poor, although we were poor. And I think that poverty of spirit is the thing that is devastating our kids. When they talk about they have no hope, they don't think about it in terms of their artistic endeavor. I mean, they buy all the hip-hop stuff. They can design, they can work, they need to be entrepreneurs. I heard the woman from Baldwin Hills talk about there's a contest in which people get free space if they win, and then they can set up their own. We're not talking to young people about that. I used to always talk to people, empty space in the mini mall, let a kid set up a sandwich shop. Let them begin to, we don't do it together to let them know that we will do it together. And I still believe in them and their hope, and not just intermarriage, but the whole issue of growing up together. That's one of the advantages that we have in Los Angeles and California. You go to some other parts of the country and they don't know what a Mexican is. They now know about it in New Orleans, but they didn't know before. They don't know about Asians and having grown up with people, even in terms of food. So we have a tremendous advantage, and we need to we need to celebrate it and celebrate it with them. And I think they'll save us as we've always been saved by the younger ones.
Okay. Thank you. I think that Mr. Watkins has one more comment. He said he wanted to have one more, and then we're through. But go ahead.
Well, I'd like to ask the nonprofit side of the panel to join me in requesting, since we don't know when we'll be sitting in front of Mr. Olive again or in front of Olivia, but I want industrial solutions to the poverty in Watts. I want the people that live within walking distance of their job to be able to go and assemble solar panels, or to grow food, or to build cars, or to do the kinds of things that include prefabricated housing production, modular homes, anything that we can do that makes coming to work vital to the rest of the world. And I think that if we can do that in Watts, we can show the rest of the city, and maybe we can show the country how folks that live in poverty can work their way out of it, can design their own solutions to it, and we don't have to get more government cheese. We won't find ourselves in more mousetraps.
All right. Okay. Well, you know, I want to thank everybody for coming. I do want to mention, you know, these panels have been sponsored by the South Los Angeles Community Initiatives Community Advisory Committee. I just want to quickly mention their names: Sharice Bremond, Eric Lee, Wayne Moore, Leon Jenkins, Grant Sanu, Lizette Hernandez, Lula Bolton, Michael Banner, Keith Coleman, Esther Torres, Gus Harris, Edward Kim, Arturo Ybarra, and Tony Hester. We want to thank you so much for coming here all day, particularly those of you who've been here all day. So let's end up by thanking this panel. Thank you all. Hope to see you tomorrow.